Welcome again, everybody, to another edition of First Person, sponsored by the Ruin Camp Farm Drainage Company in Fort Laramie. Give them a call for issues of water, commercial, farm, and residential. If you've got wet yards or wet fields, or you got anything wet they can help you with.
Well, I'm sure we do.
They can dry you up. They can make water work for you. Call them on Dawson Road in Fort Laramie. That's Phil Barhorst, fine sponsor of First Person here on Press Pros.
On Fort Laramie, they'd be really pleased because they probably still haven't come down from last weekend.
They don't need water help. They really don't. Our guest this morning, as you can see, we're at the 91st Annual Boys State Tournament. The Commissioner of the OHSAA, Dr. Dan Ross, is with us. This has become a yearly event for you and I to get together here and do this. And I must say, are there any two people that would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to even do this? I say not.
Well, there may be only a few, especially when you don't get out of here till late in the evening before, because our ball games were late last night.
It makes for long weekends for you particularly, because you never miss a minute of the game.
No. Why would you miss a minute?
No.
Kids are here and they're excelling, and their communities are here. This is where you want to be.
This is the place to be this weekend. One of your crown jewels, of course. I always say the baseball is the best of these, and you know why I say that.
I understand
you know why I say that. But with this and football and track and everything you do, I dare say, and I always say, no one does it better than the OHSAA, and you're to be congratulated for that.
Well, that means you have a great team of people, and you're part of it.
I know that. Thank you. Appreciate that. Lots to talk about, but I want to narrow this down. As always, I try to talk to people before I come here and have the opportunity to talk with you. It is a great point of debate this year. A lot of opinions about the coming vote as to separation of the public and the private schools, separate tournaments. A lot of people say it ought to be that way. There's other people, including myself, that says leave it alone, because you want the highest competitive standard possible. You have to beat the best to be the best, and that includes everybody, public and private. Tell us where the status of that vote, if there is to be a vote. Tell us what's the state of the union regarding that matter.
Well, the vote right now is scheduled for the first 2 weeks in May. The principals would vote on that piece. The status of that, and I spend a lot of time across Ohio, so I hear all sides.
Everything.
And having been a principal of a Catholic high school and a superintendent of several public school districts, I have I guess maybe the luxury of having a foot in both camps.
Right.
That I've been in both camps, and I understand that piece. I think we probably have a number of issues that are involved with this, but I believe it truly comes down to this example. And your viewers can see this. We have a school that gets their youngsters from a school district that is this size.
Yep.
And every one of their kids come from their community, and they're going to be a Division III, okay, or Division IV, and they're competing against a school that gets their kids from the size of this basketball court, the geographic area of their draw, and they're Division III. So the crux of this piece is, we get ours from here, and we're Division III. You get yours from that area over there, 7 counties, and you're a Division III. How's that fair?
Yep.
And so what we've been looking for is options to try to find how can we make that situation fair. Your comment earlier on is it's good, because you want to make sure that when you're at the end, the best play the best to be a state champion. So how can we do that and maintain that piece? Because there are people in Ohio that very honestly, and they're good people, that they honestly believe that the only fair way to have any kind of competitive balance in Ohio is for the non-publics to play their own tournament and the publics to play their own tournaments, because there isn't any way to make this situation work. I guess I disagree, because I believe we can find a way to make that option work. And I honestly believe that we have some of the best tournaments. You alluded to that early.
No question. We
have some of the best tournaments in the country, people that come from all over the country, and the state executives that come from across the country come into the tournaments here, and they're amazed. But we want to make sure we can hang on to that because we have something special here. Is it perfect? No. Do we need to tweak it? I believe yes. But I believe separation is an extreme, and I don't believe that that's the best option.
I've yet to, the fact of the matter, find too many coaches that want it separated. Because I know, well, we mentioned Fort Laramie a moment ago. Carlos Siegel won here last week. Bill Sturwald has won, and he won against the his two titles have come against Newark Catholic, who've won 6 times in the state of Ohio. That is the standard for Ohio Division IV baseball. He would not trade those titles, given the fact that he came against the best. People want to play against the best.
Nobody wants an asterisk behind.
No, sir.
Behind that state title piece, and that's what I think would probably end up happening. Plus, I honestly believe if you separate, there's going to be a completely different look at how these tournaments look. Because, and I'll use an example. Let's take field hockey. We have field hockey in Ohio predominantly for Title IX reasons. Mm-hmm. It's a girls' sport. There's 9 non-public field hockey teams in Ohio. Okay, so if you have a separate tournament, how do you have a state tournament for 9 teams?
Yeah.
And so if you don't have it for the non-public, you're not going to have it for the public either. Hockey's in that realm. Gymnastics is in that realm. There could be others that are in that realm also, but it creates a completely different look and the logistics of making all that work. If you're going to have the boys basketball, okay, we currently have 4 divisions. If we separate, we're not adding schools, so does that mean we would have about 150 schools that would be non-public playing basketball? And for the public schools playing basketball, we would probably still have 3 divisions. But then you have the Hoosier division for the non-publics, but you'll have Fostoria St. Wendland with their 20-some boys playing St. X. And they'll all be in the same division.
I'll leave it at this. As an old athlete, when I played here at Ohio State, I always wanted to pitch against Michigan. I never wanted to pitch against Ohio Dominican. And nothing against Ohio Dominican because they played very good baseball. I always wanted to beat the best.
Well, sure, absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about the fact that I've written about this on Press Pros, a year where I would call it vanilla in football, certainly vanilla in basketball, for the sake that there are no dominating teams or prohibitive teams as far as coming to the tournament and saying nobody's going to beat us this year. I mentioned football, certainly that way in basketball, and I think you have to a little bit in that for the fact that it makes for very interesting tournaments, very competitive tournaments. The one here last week in girls basketball, there were no Mount Notre Dames here last week. I give it to Hathaway Brown for winning 5 state titles. That's a remarkable achievement. But yet, when you look at the first-timers here last week, certainly this weekend, really makes for a fun and interesting tournament, very competitive environment.
Well, I think there's a parity with that piece, but it makes it really exciting. You would have loved to have been a fly on the wall Sunday when all the teams were coming in, because we bring all the coaches in. The deer in the headlights, because oh my goodness, because we meet here and they come down the stairs and it's the first time they walk on this floor. I mean, their hearts are fluttering, and it's, oh my goodness, I can't hardly believe that we're here. And then to blink, and yesterday being Thursday with the short week, there were a couple of them that played for their first time here yesterday, and it was very exciting, but it was extremely exciting for their communities.
Yeah.
And having been through that many times, there's an excitement in the community. I'm not sure that there's anything that pulls the community in such a positive way together as the teams being in the state tournament, because they absolutely just come out of everywhere. They may not have been to a game all year, but they're going to get behind and support their kids, and they're going to support their school because that's their pride. Yep. And they're going to do that. And the parity has made more of that happen, and I love it.
I think you saw that yesterday with Ironton. Every time that there's a Lawrence County team like Ironton that comes here, this place to the end of the arena was all orange and black. You're going to see that today with Troy Christian. I was talking with their athletic director yesterday, and he was laughing about the number of tickets that they used to sell for a sectional game. Yesterday or this week they sold 850 to come here for a little school the size of Troy Christian.
Warren Vincent?
Yeah.
2,200 And the AD said, there are some of these people I've never seen.
Never seen. Never seen.
Not only not seen at a ball game, has never seen before ever.
Dr. Dan Ross is our guest this week on First Person. I want to give you a moment here for a little PSA for the OHSAA, because last week something very unique happened here. We've been talking about Fort Loramie. Carla Siegel and the Lady Redskins finally, after 42 years, and some great coaches like Jane Poppelman and Dave McFeely and Don Goldschmidt and people like that, they finally break through and win that first tournament. She'd been here 4 times, had lost previously just about every manner you could do it, and yet last week they finally won. And I know that speaks to your message about if you get knocked down, you got to get up, you got to keep playing, you got to keep fighting, because this is life. This is life.
That's one of those life lessons, and Carla exhibited that last week with such class. And you mentioned it, time number 4, you would have never known that by the way Carla came through, because she doesn't show that pressure. She handled that with a lot of grace and a lot of class, and her kids played that way. They follow her example, and she's such a good example, and it was really, really an exciting time to be here for the people with Fort Loramie last week, because I think they were really excited to see the girls break through.
A few tears.
Oh, I am sure.
A few tears,
and
justified. And I can't leave. I get the opportunity, because we're published at home in that area, to talk about Jack Billing and the Anna Rockets, 2 titles in 3 years, and just what girls basketball, the kind of standard it is for the state as it pertains to the Shelby County League.
Well, I was going to say that area had 2 crowns go back home last week, and there's 88 counties in the state, and to have 2 of them located right there, 2 of the state championships, that's amazing.
Yeah, and 3 when you count Kettering over, right down the road in Montgomery County.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they just did such a marvelous job, and Jack, I know Jack's going to be retiring, and they will miss him. He's done a wonderful job with the Rockets, and Carla's done a wonderful job with Fort Loramie. And just as you mentioned, that experience last week, just to see the crowd behind those kids, in both Anna and Fort Loramie, was amazing. Those communities love and care about those kids, and they support them to the max. And I think they're blessed.
Which is why we say these events from the Ohio High School Athletic Association, there are none better in 50 states in championship competition for high school athletes than what you're going to see this weekend, and the one coming up the first weekend of June, which I'm particularly partial to.
Absolutely. Well, it's another good one, and to play at Huntington Park is one of the nicest places really in the country.
It's a good gig, and it's a good gig and a good deal. Dr. Dan Ross, great to see you.
Great to see you.
Wish you nothing but the best. It's a lot of fun here. Appreciate your courtesy for joining us at 7 o'clock in the morning. This man's been up for 2 hours already. That wraps up the First Person edition for this week. Again, brought to you by the Ruin Camp Farm Drainage people. Phil Barhorse, they're on Dawson Road in Fort Loramie. Call them if you have water issues. If you got fields or yards you need to get dried up, they've dried my basement up. They can help you as well. Check them out there in Fort Loramie. They'll make water work for you. For Dr. Ross and our sponsors, thanks for joining us again on another edition of First Person and your support of high school sports here on PressProsMagazine.com.